Welcome to today's Build Up session. Hard to believe we're episode, I think, five already. And today we're going to be asking a very large question. Is AI really working for you? Five ways to measure its impact in the pre-construction space. So I'm Shawn Prince, VP of Enterprise Experience here at Attentive AI, and I'll be your facilitator for today's discussion. So there's no doubt AI is everywhere in construction. Conversations right now, estimating, design, coordination, but how much of it is real impact and how much is it just hype? I've been hearing these questions with customers, I've been hearing it at meetings, been hearing it at conferences, really all over. And that's what we're really here to dig into today. So we're going to unpack how to tell if AI is truly delivering value in your pre-construction workflows, where to measure ROI specifically, and how to plan for the future as the industry evolves. Because the only thing certain is change here in the pre-construction space, and that's kind of true for life in general as well. So joining me today are two fantastic experts in these fields who live and breathe in this space daily. So I'm going to ask James if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Sidian. You can come off mute there, and then Shikhar as well once James gets wrapped up for us.
Hey everyone, I am James Hinsperger. I am co-founder of Sidian. We help to automate consulting engineers' workflows, acting as a junior engineering assistant. It's been great so far, and I look forward to chatting today with everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Shikhar, over to you, sir.
Hi, Shawn. Hi, James. Hi, everyone. My name is Shikhar. I'm Chief Product Officer here at Hinsperger. I've been with the company for about 5 years now, and yeah, glad to be able to join today. Um, I'll try to be the voice of our customer on this webinar, and I know all the questions, and I've got all the answers written by one of our customers. So I'll try and narrate those. Just kidding.
Awesome. Thanks, Shikhar. I know you're a true voice of the customer individual with how many of our customers you talk to on a daily and weekly basis. And James, you're one of our valued partners here at Attentive and appreciate you and all the inputs you'll have into this session today. We were going to have Irana from Petticoat and Schmidt join us as well, but unfortunately there were some unforeseen circumstances and she'll not be able to join us today, but we'll have her on some upcoming episodes as well. So a couple before we dive into our discussion topic today on AI and measuring ROI specifically, just a gentle reminder, this session is going to be recorded. We'll send the replay afterwards, so don't worry if you miss any specific parts. Couple housekeeping items before we get started. We've got here at the bottom of the screen, you'll see there is a Q&A box. You can actually drop questions in. So if James or Shikhar or I are having a conversation about something specific that you want to dive deeper at, we're going to have a Q&A session towards the end of the call where we'll be able to take some of those questions as we go. And then we'll also have, I think, two polls today specifically. Would love for you to join in and interact with those polls. We'll take a couple pauses and review those polls with the audience. They provide some great insights and also provide some great content that we'll be referring to as we go deeper into the session today. Just about an hour with us, 2 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern, and we'll wrap up sharp at 3 p.m. Eastern to get everybody on about their day. So with that, let's jump in. James, I'm gonna come to you first here on our first question. So really AI across the pre-construction lifestyle. We're zeroed in on the pre-con space today. So let's start with a quick reality check. So AI on it's on every conference agenda, it's on every software roadmap, but I would say on most job sites and pre-con desks, team leads, department heads, leadership, right, are still asking, is it actually working for us? I think everybody knows that they should be doing something with AI, but a lot of them don't necessarily know what to do or how to measure if it's effective, right? If they're actually doing it. So in our recent polls, nearly 60% of teams using AI tools said they can't clearly measure ROI. That's a bit of an alarming figure there. So today, let's talk about how to measure it and how to make sure AI is truly creating value and maybe just not that buzz or bubble word we've been hearing. So, James, let's start with you from your experience at Sidian. What can AI realistically do in pre-construction today versus what's still overpromised or in that quote unquote hype phase?
Yeah, Shawn, that's a great point. We have this question all the time as well, and metrics are crucial to be tracking in terms of ROI. I think first, more broadly, it's important to understand that AI can help you complete work, but cannot do all of your work for you. It's still super important to have a human in the loop. If AI can do 80% of your procedures and it takes 20% of the time it normally would, that's a great efficiency gain, but relying on it to do 100% of your work is still far-fetched. In estimating, there is strong takeoff software like Beam, obviously, and you guys have a human in the loop to verify outputs, which is great for confidence in the outputs. Procore just released an agent called Helix, but again, you need to review the outputs of this system. And then us at Sidian, we have a system that acts as an assistant, but again, it's just an assistant to help you with your work. At the end of the day, humans being in the loop is absolutely critical. Um, in terms of measuring and the metrics of ROI, it's important to be taking notes, ensuring that you have clear guidelines on, okay, this is the problem we're trying to solve with this implementation, and this is how we are going to solve it. So that's how we look at it at Sidian.
That's great feedback there, James. I think that human in the loop piece, it's pretty timely. I like there's a couple examples that I was thinking of as you were talking. For instance, right, you mentioned Cydian's assistant. When I use ChatGPT or Claude in my day-to-day, nothing goes out without me double checking it, right? God help us if we send some of that stuff out before we make sure it's in our voice and make sure the data is correct. And one of the things internally we were talking about, I think earlier today actually, Waymo, right? The actual, autonomous vehicle. They're all over Phoenix. I was just in Phoenix and I took one for the first time. And even Waymo, right? These autonomous vehicles have a human in the loop on the back end watching and making sure that, everything's good and kosher and it's a safe ride as well. So I think that's a big piece. I think as AI continues to progress and get better and tighter feedback loops, certainly that human in the loop might compress a bit, but I think that's a very, very timely piece. So I appreciate that input there, James. Shikhar, kind of taking it over from a product perspective, where do you see AI delivering ROI first for your customers? I guess, will it show up in more ways than just time savings, or is it starting to show up in other ways like better bid strategy or potentially even increasing win rates when we talk about pre-con specifically?
Oh, 100%, Shawn. And I think you beautifully structured that question because we've seen contractors adopting AI, and I think you've got to look at ROI from a short and a long-term perspective. Because if um, take the pain to purchase a new technology and take the pain to implement it, you need to see the ROI, soon enough. Otherwise, you will see people lose trust, and then it's one more software purchase that just didn't pan out, right? So what we've seen with Beam AI with a lot of our customers is, I think the fastest ROI, easiest ROI to measure is time savings. I think that's where we recommend our customers to really start measuring, the gains that they get from their software spend with us. So if you're using Beam AI, you're getting takeoffs done for you. How much time are you saving, right? How is that time being used elsewhere? I think that's the fastest metric, easiest metric to track. How many hours were you spending doing takeoffs, a couple months ago versus now? And I think that's very easy to calculate. You can just literally look at your calendar and say, okay, I saved, 40% of my time. So I think in the short term, that's a very good metric to track. I think as you learn the ropes of using AI, and talking specifically about pre-construction, talking about takeoffs and estimating, I think a lot of our customers and one of our was having a chat with one of our customers recently, and I think they've started to they started to experience a lot of consistency and accuracy in the data that they are able to send out to their customers, which means they don't have to second guess numbers anymore because they're not always hard pressed against tight bit deadlines like they were previously. Which means that there's more confidence in what's being put out, what's being sent out to the customer. That is certainly and again, it has improved their responsiveness, their proposal quality. All of these lead to much better interactions with their potential clients, and ultimately translate to better better conversion rates, better win rates. So I think ROI, measuring ROI, you can start with time savings. I think that's the easiest lift to measure. But over time, I think the ROI shows up in so many ways, more ways than one. Better decision making, stronger and better customer relationships, and just the sheer quality, uplift in the quality of what you send out to your customers.
Yeah, that's great points there, Shikhar. I think it's more than just, when we talk about ROI specifically, it's not just about speed, it's about outcomes, how many bids you're able to submit, how many you're winning, or what's your close percentage lift, right? You should see some lift in your close percentages as you begin to implement this. And it might be indirect, right? So like if you're gaining more time for your, let's just say your estimator group, where are they applying that time? Could it be in value engineering? Could it be scripting out the job a little bit more so you have a more comprehensive proposal, and maybe you're beating out that next contractor in line, not just on price but on plan as well, and eventually offering some margin improvements to the business as well. So I think that's well said. James, before we move to our first poll, I'd love to just get your thoughts on, what key metrics would you recommend teams track when actually evaluating the ROI of their actual AI and software investments?
Yeah, Shawn, for sure. Just to piggyback on what you just mentioned in terms of R&D, there's an engineering company that has a massive multiplication factor because they're able to spend 40% of their time on R&D due to their productivity of their software. So if you don't have to keep on crunching out projects all the time and you can spend more time on the back end working through your processes, making things more efficient and differentiating yourself from your competitors, that can actually increase your multiplier. So you have to work less for clients. But going back to your question, I believe people automate for two main reasons. The first reason is obviously to increase productivity, and the second reason is to increase and improve accuracy. So productivity, an example would be completing either more work with the same number of people or completing the same amount of work with less people. And accuracy being, okay, we avoid rework, we are getting more accurate results off of the get-go. So in terms of measuring these metrics, backpacking on Shikhar, it would be time saved again. So how much time are we spending before we implement this solution versus how much time is it taking after the implementation? And it's very important to actually keep track of this. So don't just implement a solution and not actually have quantifiable values to compare. It's important to say, okay, upfront, how long is it taking us to do a takeoff? After we implement Beam, for example, what's the time savings? And then for accuracy aspect of things, it goes to what you were saying, Shawn, in terms of bids won, for example. So we submit X amount of proposals. How many are we winning? What's the percentage? Now we're using a software to help us. Now what's our win percentage? So bringing things down to numbers is the most legitimate way you can ensure your software is actually providing a solution of value and, to your point, ROI, return on investment.
Yeah, great feedback. It has to be a metric, right? There has to be a number that you're looking at. And I think too, you said something, James, there's two ways to approach it. There's certainly like less people, same output, or same people, more throughput. Honestly, I run into both those conversations almost on a daily basis. It kind of depends on if the business that we're talking about is more on a hey, we're trying to save, we lost a key person, right, and we need to keep our throughput at the same level. I'd say the fun conversation of that coin is, that side of that coin is specifically when you can keep your team, but do so much more. I think that's probably where AI is going to pay off in a huge way, not just in the pre-construction space, but across all of construction and all of commercial businesses, essentially. So I think that's great feedback, James. Have a metric, right? It doesn't have to be 19 things. It might only be one or two things to get started to track and keep it simple so you can manage it. All right, I think let's go to our first poll. So we'll go ahead and pull that up. And as we pull that up, please remember you can drop any questions in the chat in the bottom as we go, and we'll make sure to take 10 or 15 minutes to spend some time there. So first poll here, how far along are you in tracking AI performance in estimating or bidding? So we have a couple choices here and invite you to participate. So we track time savings and throughput. We track bid to win ratios. We're piloting but don't have metrics yet, or we rely on anecdotal feedback from estimators. So the main question here, how far along are you in tracking AI performance in estimating or bidding? And frankly, I see all these. I've heard all these answers from discussions with our current customer base and just people in the industry. So you're not alone if it's one or the other. I've seen and heard all of these. All right, we'll just give it another couple seconds and then we'll take a look at the results live here. All right, let's go ahead and close it. And we've got our results here. So most kind of weighted towards the bottom half of these questions. So we're piloting, but don't have metrics yet. And then a lot here, 63%, we rely on anecdotal feedback from estimators. So I think that's probably natural with the stage that we're in the technology space of pre-construction, right? We're getting a lot of anecdotal feedback from our estimators. I think as you go as a business, it would be great to kind of move up that ladder on the questions, right? Are you tracking bid to win ratios? Are you tracking time savings and what you're doing with that time outside of that? But I think that's a pretty natural response I was expecting on that poll. Great. Thank you for participating there. Let's move on. Shikhar, I'd love to come to you here specifically with our second topic. You've worked with many small and large estimating teams and everything in between. From your perspective, how is AI actually shifting what the teams focus on specifically week to week?
Oh, absolutely, Shawn. And I've had the privilege to work closely with a lot of estimating organizations within construction companies. And I think one of the biggest benefits I would say is significant amounts of repetitive work has been taken off of the estimators' plates. So, no longer measuring and tracing quantities and reading notes to capture specs and uh, key data from plans and specs. AI is able to summarize and read and summarize that information really well. And of course, you've got to verify it, but then cut down the amount of time you've had to spend on that significantly. So I think that's what AI is built for, and that's what AI is really good at, cutting down that manual, repetitive work. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits or changes that we've seen, positive changes. And I think that what this has resulted in is a shift, right? Shift towards a more higher value work, which would mean assessing risks better, getting better pricing, if possible, being able to do value engineering wherever you have a good relationship with the contractor, with the customer. So, and in fact, also writing better scopes, leaving no gap for interpretation, which is just points towards a higher quality of proposals, which lead to better win rate and no more misses when you actually move towards production, towards the project management phase. I think one other key positive change that customers have reported is the quality of client interactions as well. Instead of always being behind the curve when it comes to understanding the project and being on top of all the details. Now you have more time on your hands to analyze constructability and have a very honest conversation with the customer as to how things might pan out and have all the sticky points addressed. Um, write very precisely what is not excluded in the deliverables, because that's very important to specify. And unless you have that manual task, of measuring, which takes up the bulk of the time during a bid cycle out of your, out of the window, you really can't spend time doing that. So I think that's one key positive change that we've seen in our customers' lives, and which is a great thing because that's what you want AI to do. AI cannot replace estimators, but then it can provide you with that capability and the time window to focus on things that really require human judgment, where you can really provide some strategic advice basis your experience as a construction professional over the years. So I would say those are the few ones.
Yeah, a lot of gold in there, Shikhar. I want to like boil that down for the attendees, right? So I heard, you can spend more time on RFQs, right? Which can actually help how you buy and what you buy. You can focus on RFIs as well, right?
Right,
Comprehensive RFIs, making sure you fully understand what's out there, scope refinement, and that being a part of that being exclusions, right? You have more
right,
time to dial that in. And probably, in my opinion, my humble opinion, would be the customer interactions.
right,
It's like science. When you talk to a customer more, have more touch points in the process, your close percentage goes up incrementally. So to be able to put some of your most intelligent people in your company, these estimating and precon groups, in front of the customer more often,
right,
uh, man, what a great advantage that might be to somebody that's, or a firm that's not using the AI.
right. Absolutely.
Awesome. Great wisdom there, Shikhar. Appreciate that. So question three, like want to talk about finding the right fit for your workflow. And so James, I'll come to you on this and then we'll also loop Shikhar in here as well. But from your work with construction firms, what's the first thing they often get wrong when deciding what kind of AI solution to try? I think we talk like this is what you should do. These are the success lists. But maybe if we can help, the attendees for the webinar, like avoid some of the normal pitfalls that you see, that might be bring some value as well.
Yeah, Shawn, for sure. I think the wrong approach when implementing a solution is just chasing a trend. So maybe you have some competitors and you see they've implemented something. Your business functions differently than your competitors in some cases. So just because they've implemented a certain technology does not necessarily mean it's going to be providing you the same ROI as they are getting from it. I think it's important to actually implement based on a business problem you have and then work out from there, as opposed to trying to go from technology and then finding a business problem for that technology to solve. So, for example, if I'm a carpenter, I don't always need the newest and coolest drill because I see other people using it. It really depends. If I'm doing a lot of drills daily, maybe it could be a productivity gain. But if I'm just doing it once a week, at the end of the day, my competitors may be doing more drills than me. So it could be good for them, not good for me. I think it's important to look at your business and then identify inefficiencies and work out from there. And it's all rooted in ROI. So at the end of the day, you should be trying different products, piloting a lot of these products out there now, especially automation since it's new, AI. There's trial phases. So you can have a little trial with it, feel out the technology. If you find it is increasing productivity and can justify the cost of the product, it can be a great solution. But just because your competitors are using it does not necessarily mean that should be a reason for you to implement. So that's what I would say the main drawback is and where you shouldn't start from.
Yeah, that's great. I see that happen a lot. It's not one size fits all. Find a business problem in your business, not maybe what a friend is doing in their business. I think that's great feedback, James. When you were talking, I was thinking about I heard a little blurb. It was like a little news article talking about Elon, and it wasn't Elon, but it was somebody talking about what he does. in his different businesses. And he said everybody thinks it's super complicated, and he just goes and finds the most important problem to solve in each of his businesses, and then he solves that problem. So I think your advice there dovetails nicely with Elon's way of working as well. Like let's find the business problem that has the biggest impact, and then is there a piece of technology that might be AI enabled that can help us solve that problem quicker and provide some greater ROI. That's
Yeah, sure.
that's good feedback. That's a hard thing to do because you kind of get like as a business owner or a leader in the business, you kind of get lost in the sauce, so to speak, right, of the day-to-day grind and what's going on in your business. And you got to zoom up and try to find that key problem, and then make sure that you're applying the resources and technology to that problem that's personal to you. I think that's great, James. Great feedback there. Hopefully everybody's taking some notes. I know I am. Shikhar, from your side, when you're meeting new estimating teams, who are managing bids and evaluating new tools, what matters most? There's ease of use out there, there's speed, there's reliability, there's lots of different forms and factors here to consider. What should they be considering from your perspective?
Um, I think I would just want to zoom out a bit and say actually go back and partly answer the question that you asked to James, which is, what do you get wrong? And I think one of the couple of things that I've seen, and there seems to be a repeating pattern here. One of them is that it's like courtship, and you have to build trust in the system, and you have to be very patient about it. Um, you cannot expect to use it the first time, and given that everything AI has a certain precision rate, certain accuracy, you need to spend enough time in the system to see how it reacts to what you do, to see what's the general accuracy. And I think that takes time. So I think instead of um, instead of I mean, what I mean to say is being more patient in the evaluation process. I think that is what's needed. Um, which relates to the second point, which is we somehow believe that any new tool we buy should fit into our process as it is, without significantly changing our current process. But the thing with AI tools is that they do typically tend to change that process, which means you would have to probably rework your process um, to from a mild to a significant degree. And I've seen that a lot of times there is pushback on that, and as a result of that, teams that are evaluating AI software, they tend to back out and probably not go ahead. But I think that's one paradigm change that has happened with adopting AI tools, that you certainly would have to change the way you process your workflows. And I think there certainly needs to be more openness with that. So I think uh, those were my 2 cents there to your question about what teams typically look at and what matters most. I would say reliability tops everything. Reliability of the and not just reliability of the AI. When I say reliability, I think it is the reliability of the entire user experience. So even if the AI is getting something wrong, there is enough indication in the system to tell you that, hey, this probably is not correct. There's probably a confidence score somewhere that tells you that, hey, this is something I need to review. So I think the system has to be reliable enough so that it's able, either it's correct or it tells you that, there might be something wrong there. So that, in my mind, has been one of the most important um, parameters that teams have looked at. Reliability. I mean, you need to know what it can do and what it cannot do. So a good AI system should tell you that, hey, I'm not going to work on this one. I'm not going to do well on this one. Whereas this type of a project, yeah, please try. Please go ahead and try it out. So I think that's again one more dimension of reliability that I want to bring out. It should not be confused with AI being accurate all the time, because that's largely not possible, at least theoretically. So I think reliability in that sense is very important. Of course, ease of use, very important. If you're looking to adopt a new software technology, ease of use has to be there. Otherwise, that's a blocker to adoption. So certainly, we've seen that estimating teams focus a lot on ease of adoption, and no wonder, because that has been true since the time software codes were written, because there's always a competitor out there, and one or two of them always win. One of the key reasons is that one of them is easier to use than the other. So absolutely, I think ease of use would certainly be a key metric, key parameter that estimating teams evaluate when buying new software.
Yeah, I would agree. Ease of use is certainly important. As you were talking there, Sugar, I was kind of thinking about like another thing that I see when I'm having conversations with customers is, there might be a disconnect in communication, right? If you think, if you have somebody in the C-suite, like so owner, chief executive officer, maybe a vice president of pre-con or estimating, right? They'll have a vision, right, of using AI and using a piece of technology that's going to help the team. And a lot of times where the disconnect is from that level in the organization down
Yeah.
to the actual end users. So the estimating team that's actually getting the work done on a daily basis. And I think it ties back to what you were saying, being open to change your process, right? Because the estimating teams are very process oriented, very process driven. And that's a great thing. It really is, because otherwise you end up bidding, all over the place and it's not scalable. So it's a great thing that they have the process, but being open to change that process. So I think communicating, if you're a leader out there, right, listening to this, communicating not only the vision, but the expectation and outcome that's trying to be achieved on the front end of putting any type of technology out there, whether it's Beam AI or something else, communicating that vision down to the end users and designating a champion inside the organization to help drive that adoption and reach those ROI metrics that James was talking about before. I think that's super important. And then another nugget, I was just thinking about what you had said, James, earlier. Maybe this can help people approach AI in a and I guess for lack of a better term, more approachable way is, you mentioned, right, just because your buddy has a drill, a certain kind of drill, maybe you don't need that exact same drill. If you look at AI as a tool and, where can you apply that tool in your business, that might bring down some of the barriers or the scariness of the technology in the first place. All
Yeah, I
right.
actually I had a follow-up for Shakir as well. In terms of reliability, and that's obviously baked into trust, someone trusting your product. What is your belief in gaining that trust? Like for us, it's okay, we have an output, it's matching what you previously have done. What's the interpretability required in order to gain the trust on your end, would you say?
Um, on our end, so in essence, we are a takeoff software, and essentially you need the quantities to match the ground truth. And in my mind, and again, it's coming from how customers perceive our data, it is pretty similar actually. It's how close our numbers are to their numbers, because every organization has a certain way to take off quantities, and there's some tribal knowledge that has existed and that has worked really well. Again, alluding to Shawn, that every organization has a process, and it's very important to stick to that. So if you have a winning formula, you don't want to change it. So if my AI gives something that is, works for a certain organization but doesn't work for you, then there's no trust. So I think trust is very well defined as, hey, how close are these numbers close to mine? That's I think that's by far the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like we're on the same page.
Yeah. Good dialogue there. All right, let's jump into our second poll here. So let's go ahead and pull that up. All right, poll number two, our last and final poll. Where are you currently using AI in your pre-construction process? Are you automating takeoffs? Are you using it to review plan specs for scope gaps and line item generation? There's a lot of lift there in some of the software out there today. Drafting proposals or bid documents. We're not using AI yet, but certainly want to. So where are you currently using AI in your pre-construction process? Would love for you to engage with us on this poll. And just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, look like we have a couple in the Q&A at the bottom. But if you have any questions about what we've covered so far, Feel free to drop those questions in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them as we go. All right, let's wrap up the poll and see where we're at from a result standpoint. All right, so it looks like we're not using AI yet, but want to. That's taken us to about 63%. Good, you're in the right spot here. Reviewing plans, specs for scope gaps and line item generation, about 25%. And then drafting proposals or bid documents, about 13%. Awesome, great to see this. This one threw me off just a little bit on my expectations, but good to see the data up there as well. Thanks for participating in that poll there. All right, let's go on to the future of contractor workflows with AI. So let's talk about where all this is headed. So James, from your perspective, how do you see AI reshaping workflows? Let's just say maybe over the next few years.
Yeah, I think the power of AI is in its ability to leverage large quantities of data in a structured and very fast way, much faster than a human could. By leveraging this data, a human typically has to make decisions based on what they remember and gut feel in some cases, versus if you have a machine that can digest a large quantity of data, you can come up with highly accurate decisions in a fraction of the time. So I think making the faster decisions based on facts as opposed to a gut feel is a major plus point. And then I think having a human in the loop is going to continue to be important for the foreseeable future. As I was mentioning before, these solutions are an assistant, not a replacement, similar to how computers have assisted us, made us much, much more productive, but we still need a human verifying outputs. I think eventually down the road, there will be agents that can conduct work on one's behalf, and it can continue to get longer and longer. There's actually a study out. Anyone familiar with Moore's law? It's the number of transistors on a microchip doubles every 2 years, whereas in AI, the amount of work an agent can do doubles every 7 months. So it's increasing very rapidly. However, there's still errors, and it still makes mistakes. So having a human loop for now is very important. There's some things that it will never be able to do, but for now, it's a great way to just synthesize data, I would say, get those fast decisions made and help out that way.
Yeah, that's great feedback there, James. I think like the speed at which things are going, when you mentioned 7 months, it's doubling. I just hear like, 4 words: get in the game. I wrote down get in the game, right? Like you've got to, if you're not, like, based on that poll we just took, you're not using it, find a space, find a business problem that you can help solve. And then when you're, for your first comment, less anecdotal and more fact-based decisions and data. um, that is, like, I think the biggest experience I've had just in my day-to-day work in the pre-con space in a tech company. I know internally using AI to process large amounts of data. First of all, it'll put me to sleep because I like the vision. I don't like all the analytical side of things, right? So it helps me stay awake, but it also helps me walk into decisions and conversations with much more conviction because I know what the data is. I have different insights from the data. So you can actually be a better leader for your teams as well as kind of maybe a less thought through side effect of that. So I think that's well put, James. Shikhar, where do you see AI and pre-construction going next? What are some of the ways, new AI agents that James referred to, or even existing tools like ChatGPT or Claude already help estimating teams today? Where else do you see potential?
I think, in my opinion, I think in the um, we're headed in the right direction. Focus first on the manual, repetitive tasks that AI can deliver with higher reliability, higher precision. Um, I think that's the right direction to go into because unless the software is reliable, It does not lead to any efficiency, any time gains. We've been in this industry for a while and we've iterated over the last few years. And I think that has been a key learning. And any software tool that has to be successful has to, you know, I believe that it is the law. You have to be reliable to be acceptable. So that's very important. And I think any capability, any workflow that can be delivered at that reliability will be what the future of AI is. Right now, we see repetitive manual tasks that involve reading a lot of data and extracting information or translating data from one format to another. I think that is a very good use case for even existing LLMs, which have driven so much, around the world. So many companies have come up leveraging technologies developed by Google and OpenAI and Anthropic. So I think that's the direction we headed. Example, extracting specs. They're reading a 600-page document. Can you tell me everything that I need to know about installing ducts in this project? Yes, why not? Give me a couple minutes, right? So I think that's a huge time saver, and that's fairly reliable. Of course, you're expected to review that data, but again, that's the most potent use. Um, and I think that's why we're seeing so many software companies building solutions in that space. I think one of the other use cases that might be very useful is, hey, can you find me the right bid? There's so many bids out there. The win rate's probably 10, 11% for a typical, small to mid market contractor. How can you help me find bids that have the best chance of winning by just evaluating the bid parameters and reading the bid page and matching those with what I typically excel at. So I think again, a data matching, data summarizing sort of problem statement. But I think it can be a very useful tool in helping estimators cut down the amount of time they have to spend. What it really can't do, I think that's also a very important thing to understand. At least in the near term, never say never, but in the near term, replace the human judgment aspect of things. So if you need to take a judgment call as to how it's going to work out, or whether or not you need to go after a particular job, uh, make decisions where there's room for interpretation. I think that's still going to stay the way it is, and I think that's really where estimators become strategic advisors instead of just be number crunchers. So I think at a high level, that's the direction we are headed. In the long term, I think AI can take on more complex tasks um, in estimating, do more and more of the manual work, maybe getting quotes from vendors around the city, finding the best source for a particular material, finding the best replacement for the same spec, that's reducing the cost, and that's the bid value. So I think that's also a possibility which should not be very distant.
Yeah, it's exciting what could be, and it's great to get both yours and James' perspective on that, in regards to maybe where we're headed with this. And so I would say, essentially AI is in the process, right, of moving from being a what we would call maybe a nice to have, right, to being more of that operational backbone of the business, right? That's the direction that this is headed. And the firms that really combine smart adoption with the measurable metrics that we've talked about are the ones that will actually pull ahead faster and have that first mover advantage, for lack of a better term there. So I think that's well summed up. Coming up to kind of our last topic, we started making this shift in our episodes to, try to sum up some actionable recommendations from our panelists, right? So that, you as a listener or attendee or leader in your business can actually take something and go back and implement it, or be able to use that piece of information to impact your business. That's kind of what this is all about, right? So um, to wrap things up, I'd love for each of you to share, one piece of advice for teams looking to measure or really scale their AI initiatives. James, I'd love to come to you first. What's one recommendation, or two, if you got to, you'd give teams who want to measure or scale their AI effectively?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the business problem identification. I think what I would say is begin with the end in mind. Anything in life, I think that's a good saying. So you always want to have your eyes set on something. Obviously, your goals can change, but having a goal is crucial because that allows you to kind of backtrack from there. So a goal is macro, and then you can come up with micro metrics in order to track if you're actually getting closer to that goal. So, business problem could be I want to land more bids. It's taking us a while to do so. And then how do we actually track that? We are landing this many bids currently, and this is how many we're producing. And then we implement Beam, for example. Now, what do the numbers look like? So I think starting with the end in mind is absolutely crucial, and that's my one piece of advice for everybody.
Awesome. Great advice there, James. Shikhar, how about you specifically on actionable recommendations?
Um, I think one piece of advice I would give, and again, comes from experience in working with our customers, helping them adopt our software tool in their workflow, would start small and then iterate fast. Um, the AI solution as it exists out there might not be the perfect fit to your current process. And I think the AI solution has got to adopt, and so has so your process too. But I think if you go ahead and want to adopt AI wholesale, that might result in you having to rip apart your process and set up a new one, which no one's going to do. So I think the right solution there is start small. Out of all the 100 types of projects you do, there probably are 10, 15, maybe 20 that are a very good fit for a particular AI use case. Go ahead and buy it. Because the thing with AI is, let's look at ChatGPT 2020. The first models have been out since then, and no one knew and wanted to use this till 2023, till ChatGPT 3 came around. And that's when people really started to believe that, hey, this can actually be used. And of course, there were still people in 2023 that didn't want to use it because, hey, it was not perfect. But then, fast forward 2025, there are people who have 7, 8, 10 ChatGPT tabs open at any given point of time, and you just can't think without it. That's not necessarily a bad thing because it does help you speed up a lot of things that would take you hours and hours previously. People are setting up, there are one person software companies being set up because you can do now so much more um, than you could ever do before. So how did we arrive at this point? That was because someone started small and they figured out that, hey, the AI will improve over time. So if it's not covering 80% of my cases right now, no problem. Maybe just 20%. But in the future, this will cover more and more my use cases. So I think um, the process has to be gradual in most of the spheres. We'd be very lucky to find something that will solve everything without a human in the loop. So I would say start small. You have to lower your expectations maybe in the initial few months, but then let it evolve. And your process is also, has also got to change a bit for it to deliver the maximum impact.
Yeah, well said there, Shikhar. And I think while you're, I maybe just offer, I know I wasn't necessarily on the agenda today to be a panelist, but I'll put myself in the seat. Something I actually learned from you, Shikhar. I came from the services, construction, facility management space for 20 years. And then as I moved over into the technology space, I worked really closely for the audiences, worked really closely with Shikhar in my first 12 months here at Attentive. And there's a culture inside technology that is exactly what Shikhar talked about is, hey, start somewhere and iterate quickly. And in my mind, AI is a people business first. And I know that might seem odd, but us as leaders in the business need to make it okay for our teams to make mistakes, go out and test some things, tell them that you want them to make some mistakes and iterate quickly. Like if you're not making mistakes, we're not moving quick enough, we're not breaking enough things, and we're not testing enough stuff to make these decisions quicker. And so I wanted to share that, my first 12 months getting baptized into a technology firm with Shikhar as my leader, he taught me that. And I think that's one thing that the construction and pre-con space could be more it's a valuable piece of advice to take in and make sure that you as leaders of your teams are actually setting that expectation that we expect you to test things, we expect you to make mistakes and test technology to get better. So that's probably one of my pieces of actionable advice, as you leaders sitting out there listening to the panelists today. All right, so I think that's a perfect point to pause and take a quick look at what those workflows actually look like in practice. So we've talked about AI's potential and how it's transforming estimating teams. Now let's take a look how Beam AI is making that transformation more real. So Shikhar, I'll hand it over to you. You can walk us through a quick demo. If you could show us how Beam AI automates takeoffs and offers bid tracking capabilities through the actual bid dashboard.
Oh, absolutely. Shawn, I believe my screen should be visible now.
It is.
So this is the Beam AI platform, and I'll show you how to use it, how to use it to automate your takeoffs and track your bids. So the way you set up a takeoff is super easy, and I think that's one key aspect. As I mentioned previously, it has got to be easy to adopt and easy to learn. So to set up a takeoff on Beam AI is super easy. It's three simple steps. Doesn't take you more than a couple of minutes. You start by giving a title to the project, and then you go ahead and you click on this button and you upload the drawings in PDF format. If you have spec documents with you, you go to spec docs, you click this button and upload the specs. Step two is to select the scope of work. And to make it super easy, you can just check this mark against mechanical and HVAC, and then you can go in and zoom in and read, hey, what all is this software going to take off for me, right? So this is a list you can read through. And in case you want to add or delete anything, you have this box here where you can type in and give us any custom instructions. It's like a chat GPT prompt. You can communicate in plain English. So it's that easy. And then all you got to do is just hit the submit takeoff button. That's it. So that's all it takes to submit a takeoff request. And what happens post that is we run it through the AI models, which do the takeoff. And then we have our own team of quality assurance engineers who review the work done by the AI. Because please note, AI, even though it's fast and doing bulk of the work, it's not 100% accurate. And that's why we do have quality check in there, which we provide by default. And once that process is complete, this is the output that you get. So you can see as I hover over these items, these colored polygons, you can see all the quantities have been taken off, and these are all quality checked for accuracy. So to sum it up, you spend about a couple minutes in uploading a PDF and selecting a few checkboxes that capture what you want and hit submit. And then in a day, 2, 3 days, depending on the size of the job, you get the data back, just quality checked, most likely within plus minus 1% of your own numbers so that you can trust it and use it right away to build your estimates. If you want to make any tweaks, you can use the editing tools here to make any adjustments as you need to. All the quantities are presented to you in this table on the left-hand side, and you can see the level of detail that's provided to you. All the derivative calculations are done so that you can save all that time that you spend taking things off yourself. Once that is done, you can export this data in various formats. You want to build an estimate, Excel format is the right format for you. This is what it looks like. It has all your quantities. This is a concrete and rebar takeoff. So just to show you an example, this is exactly how a human being would take off rebar quantities. And this is how we've built it. So again, it ties into the reliability thing. It's got to look like something that you've seen in the past, something that you can use right away. This is one example. So all you got to do is just throw in your pricing numbers, your labor production rates, and you can turn around your estimate. You can also export the data in a PDF format. This is what it looks like, and probably print this out and use it during your field visit if you need to. So all in all, that's what Beam AI does. Saves you more than 50-60% of your time doing takeoffs. Just upload it, forget it. Once it's back, spend some time reviewing it, and once you're done with that, you're good to go and go ahead and estimate. Shawn did mention about tracking your bids. You can track all your bids on the bid dashboard. This is what it looks like. So you can track a bid, its status, type of project, bid value, bid source. Everything is in there. How many RFIs, ITBs have been raised, have been pending. The status communicates the same thing to you, so that before the bid due date, you're notified. In fact, you get an automated email reminder one day before the bid is due that you are, ahead of the curve, and there are not many things that are, left to do on the day bid needs to go out. So yeah, technology help you manage your bids much better. And I think the key aspect to take away from here is, and I think we've discussed this all along in the last 1 hour, or 50 minutes or so, you got to eliminate all the repetitive work, and you've got to eliminate all workflows that require you to enter data manually somewhere on a repeated basis. Um, you do that when you do takeoffs, you do that when you extract information from specs, you do that when you track a bid status on a bid board, a physical white marker board, or an Excel spreadsheet. So Beam AI helps you eliminate all of that. And we are working on some exciting products coming out soon. One of them is a chat agent that can help you communicate with your plans. So do keep checking us out. And yeah, look forward to any questions. If you have any, you can post those questions in the um, question box, in the chat box, at the bottom of the window. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shikhar. Appreciate you giving us a tour there of Beam AI. So we've covered a lot today, from measuring ROI to choosing the right tools to envisioning what the future of pre-con could look like with AI. James, I know you've got a sharp close to our time here today, but would love to get your feedback on one question. One of the questions here is, what's the best way to start tracking AI performance metrics internally? What's a realistic 90-day goal after adopting AI? This is a space that a lot of people haven't been in, especially based on our poll. Like, they have got no way to, no way to know what to do. Could you help kind of shape the path on that question for them?
Yeah, I'm gonna sound like a bit of a broken record here, but again, you're implementing AI at the end of the day to solve a problem. So before you actually implement the AI, it's important to have metrics on the problem you're trying to solve. So you can run metrics on, for let's use takeoffs as an example. How long does it take to manually do a takeoff currently? You can take maybe measure 50 to 100. So over a month, all the takeoffs you're conducting, you get out like metrics hour by hour, how long it's taking. Then you try out a technology like Beam. And with Beam, you're taking exactly the same measurements. So from the start of doing the takeoff till the takeoff being complete, how long does that procedure take? And these need to be actually measured. Like, you have to find numerical values, the number of hours each procedure takes. And if that is providing you, let's say 50 to 60% reduction in time, and you are completing, let's say initially it takes 100 hours, now it's taking roughly 50 hours, that justifies the cost of the product, and you know you're getting a strong ROI on the product. So that's how you think about it, in terms of actually getting a return on your investment.
Awesome. Beautiful, James. I know you've got to run. Shikhar and I will actually stay back to answer just a couple more questions. James, thank you so much for pouring into the industry today.
Yeah, thanks, Shawn. Thanks, Shakir. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you,
Awesome.
James.
Great. Shikhar, maybe we'll wrap up. I know we just got 1 minute left, so maybe we'll take one more question. And one of them stood out to me. It's a big question, so get ready. How to switch to AI software, onboarding, etc., is a lot. And boy, I couldn't agree more. It really is. And a lot of times I don't see it done. Most of the time, I would even say I don't see it done successfully. Um, any any high level bullets that you would give for that individual asking that question?
Absolutely. That's a great question. That's a great question. And it is certainly right to say that onboarding can be painful, and it's a big change. But I think with any change in life, it starts with some acceptance, perseverance, and some patience. AI will certainly change, or partly change, your current workflow, current process, and it is very advisable that you come into when you decide to purchase a AI software, you have to accept the fact that you would have to tweak your processes a bit. So I think that's where a lot of pushback happens. That's where a lot of pain is felt. And I think you have to pass that barrier of pain before you can really start to see the ROI. So um, onboarding is painful if not managed well. But I think from a mindset perspective, you've got to expect the change. Um, we at Beam AI, we've been doing this for years now, and I think we've hard learned that fact, working with so many of our customers, and that's why the onboarding process that we've designed is specifically tailored to that. We have a pilot process. We advise our customers to just not go ahead and purchase the software right away. We strictly advise against that. So the way you purchase Beam AI is you spend time evaluating the software, running some projects through our platform, and we come meet. You meet our experts, you meet our quality assurance experts, you meet our engineers. You give us your feedback, and we implement that feedback for you. And till the moment you're not satisfied, you do not give approval that hey, this output looks accurate, and this output actually fits nicely into my process without disrupting too many things. That's the moment you decide to pull the trigger and purchase the software. So I think that is a very, very important aspect of how to onboard. To onboard, you have to pre-board. You have to spend that time during the pilot, and you have to do that sanity check. And I think once you're done with that, things become easier. But then to live through that process, you need to show patience and you have to come into the conversation thinking, like, okay, this is going to benefit me immensely. There's a huge upside, but then I need to spend that effort. So that would be my advice based on experience.
Awesome. You got to be ready to walk through that messy middle. There's excitement at the begin, and there's at the beginning, there's excitement at the end when you get the ROI, but there's that messy middle. You need to be able to be ready to walk through. I think that's great advice there, Shikhar. So that brings us to the end of today's session. A huge thank you to James and Shikhar and to all of you for joining us live today. And we hope we can have Irana back for another conversation, as her unique point of views always add a new dimension to our webinar specifically. So if you'd like to revisit this conversation, the replay will be available soon. So keep an eye on your inbox over the next week for that. To learn more about Beam AI or Sidian AI, scan the QR codes that we've got running through here. James and his team at Sidian are a great resource, and we love our partners dearly here at Beam and Attentive AI. So please give that QR code a scan if you'd like to get in touch with James and his team. And thanks again for being a part of the BuildUp community. We'll see you in the new year. We're not going to actually have an episode in December because everybody will be tied up with Christmas and New Year's and the holidays and the like. So we'll see you in the new year for another session and some new episodes, and hope everybody has a great Thursday afternoon. Take care.